Come on, one more time for Matty Struski. Come on.
There's a picture that was taken of me that night my daughter Rain was born, and I have the hugest smile on my face. I look like the most excited, happiest new dad on the planet, and I was completely faking it. I had always been really scared to have a kid of my own. My mother suffered from depression as I was growing up, so I knew what a burden that could be on a kid, and I had always feared that was lurking within me. And when I met my wife, Valerie, those fears dissipated a bit. We have the type of relationship that things that I'm afraid of seem a lot less scary when we're together, so we decided to go ahead and have a kid. And when I saw this, when this picture of me was taken, it was the first time that I got a good, long, hard look at Rain. About an hour earlier, a team of surgeons had brought her into the world about 4 months ahead of her expected due date in order to save Valerie's life. And Valerie was still in recovery as I stood in the neonatal intensive care unit looking at Rain in her isolette, and I was just in a state of shock. You know, she was so small. She was the smallest and sickest baby in a room full of incredibly small and incredibly sick babies. And even though she was only an hour old, she was already hooked up to multiple machines, and she had just tubes and IVs coming out of her, and I was just completely overwhelmed in that moment. And I think the nurse sensed I was about to freak out, so she grabbed a camera and she came over to me in an attempt to give me a sense of normalcy in this insane situation. And she just said, "Congratulations, Dad, let's get a picture of you and Rain." So I gathered myself and I smiled, and she took that picture, and even though I looked so happy in that picture, what I'm really thinking is, this is too much, and this is undoable. And what type of father can I possibly be in this situation? And that night was the start of a 5-month hospital stay for Rain, and it was 5 months of surgeries and x-rays and blood transfusions and infections and her repeatedly almost dying, and then the stress of it all was unbearable at times, but eventually she fought through it, and then all of a sudden she was home with us one day, and her lungs still weren't fully developed, so we had to have her hooked up to a little oxygen machine all the time. And she was considered medically fragile, which means, among other things, that if she caught a chest cold, she could die, but she was home with us. And eventually, Valerie went back to work full-time, and I stayed at home to care for Rain full-time, and I was terrified. I felt like I was not qualified to handle this situation at all, and I know a lot of new parents feel this way, but I really felt she was going to die under my care, and my stress level was just through the roof, and I felt like I had no idea what I was doing. And on top of that, I was feeling really isolated because Rain and I didn't go out very much, because when we did, every time I heard a cough or a sneeze, I would have like a panic attack, so it was just easier to stay home. And with the combination of the stress and the isolation and the constantly feeling like I might kill her, I just started to get really sad, and I felt like I was drowning a bit, and I felt like I wasn't being a very good parent, and that just made me even sadder. And I tried to talk to my friends and family about it, but through no fault of theirs, I just felt like I was burdening them, like I was always the guy who was talking about his sick kid, and nobody really wants to hear that. So Valerie knew how I was feeling, and she encouraged me to get out of the house and try something new. So I did. I started taking this storytelling class, and eventually I started getting up on stage and talking about how I felt, which is insane because I'm not even really the type of person who likes striking up a conversation with strangers, let alone sort of being up here in the center of attention. Like, I kind of feel like I might puke a little right now. But, you know, when I told the first story about the 48 hours surrounding Rain's birth, I felt incredible. It was the first time that I really dealt with my emotions head on. And even though it was really hard for me, I decided I wanted to keep telling stories because it helped. And so through the act of telling these stories, I realized that the more open and honest and vulnerable I allow myself to be, the better I felt about everything. And I feel like this newfound openness and candor has helped me become a better person in my daily life. And now Rain is 4.5 years old, and her lungs are fully developed now, and so she's not going to die if she gets a cold, which is a huge relief to me. But she is going to have some lifelong struggles due to her early entry into the world. You know, when she was 2 years old, she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And in so many ways, she's just a typical 4-year-old, but she needs a wheelchair to get around. And that's something she'll probably be dealing with for the rest of her life. And, you know, sometimes I'll look at that picture of the night she was born, and I'll just remember how impossible everything felt. And I'll see her wheeling around and playing in her wheelchair, and I'm just blown away by everything she's already overcome and adapted to. And I'll ask myself again, what type of father am I going to be to this incredible kid? And the answer is, I don't really know what's going to happen, but I just want to be the type of father that's full of hope and encouragement. So I hope that I can teach her that it's okay to be sad, as long, she's going to be sad in her life, and that's okay as long as she's not consumed by it. And I hope that I can show her that if she's in touch with her emotions and she's honest with herself and with other people, that she'll be a better person because of it. And, I know that some aspects of her life are going to be so incredibly difficult and they'll just seem undoable, but I hope that by watching me, she realizes that if she faces those challenges head on and she deals with those emotions, those things that seem so impossibly difficult could be the things about her life that she loves more than anything. Thank you.